Well, Helldivers, better get your pod soon. As you can see behind me, there's a real war waging on over Cyberstan right now. Whoa, whoa. The skybox is pretty crazy, by the way. Welcome back to the channel, Helldivers. Today, we're going to be making a loadout to liberate Cyberstan, but more importantly, handle the Cyborg Legion, because the Cyborg Legion, they change how the automaton, their army usually plays for us. And what do I mean by that? Well, you have the cyborgs. You have the ninja one that tries to rush you and knee you in the face. You have the commander one who basically sends all of the automatons around them into a frenzy, kind of speeds them up in combat. And then we have the Vox engine. Now the two cyborgs, they add a swarming element to the automaton army, which usually is reserved for mostly the Terminids, but now the automatons have them. And then on top of that, we have the Vox engine. This thing is, I think, in the same ballpark as like the Factory Strider as far as difficulty. Maybe a little bit more difficult than the Factory Strider because this thing is just decked out. It's straight up the like the hunter-killer tank from Terminator, but man, this thing is a lot of fun to fight, and that is going to be the real focus of this loadout, because dealing with one of them, not a big deal, but when you have to deal with loads of them on the battlefield and they keep getting dropped one after the other, that can be difficult. And I will say, while I was exploring Cyberstan, I came across this factory door that was open, and I went inside and I thought, oh, mark my words, everybody, I think the next iteration of automaton missions, they're going to be like giant warehouses, giant interior compounds that we go into. Similar to how the bugs, we have the underground nest that we can go into. I don't think they went far enough with the Terminid nest, but I think next up for the automatons will be those interior compounds, and then eventually with the Illuminated, maybe a mothership. But anyways, let's get to the loadout. If you guys like Helldivers Q content, consider hitting that like and subscribe button, and let's get started. Now, first up for our equipment, our primary weapon. I mentioned the swarming nature of the automatons now. I think the Coyote, this is perfect for these missions. If you don't have the Coyote, something like the Liberator Penetrator, that's going to be really good. Heck, even the Halo Assault Rifle. I want that medium pen. I just think it just feels better against the bots. Of course, you can always go with one of the marksman rifles. Those are always like very solid. Shotguns are actually very good against them, because the cyborgs, when they try to rush you, these are good at staggering them, if not just blowing off their heads. Explosive wise, I'm a little cautious about talking about the crossbow, just because again of their charging nature, and then it's really those, I forget what they're called, the ninja cyborgs that come up and try to knee you. Having the exploding crossbow here might not be the best choice. But another shout out I want to give is for the Jar 5 Dominator. I think this is going to be really good against the automatons, but for the rest of the video, I'm going to be going with the Coyote, and that's what you're going to see in the gameplay. Secondary wise, they have fixed the sway on the secondaries. I'm taking the Senator. This is just amazing across the board, especially against the automatons. Blowing off Hulk heads, blowing off cyborg heads. This thing is perfect for that. Now for the throwables, because again, the swarming nature, I've been trying to incorporate some crowd control. So the gas grenade, really good at that. And then so would be the pyrotech grenade. Those would be my two choices for crowd control. But if you really don't want to go into that, I think taking the thermite here is going to be really helpful against Hulks, and even taking out the Vox engines as well. I don't think you can go wrong there. So those are kind of the grenades that I've been bouncing between. Now for your armor passive, I have been taking the Gunslinger, and that's mostly because I love using the Senator. But if that's not your playstyle, and I understand, I would go with something like Fortified instead because of it. Well, we're using heavy armor. I love using heavy armor against the automatons, but the Vox engines, they shoot out a lot of explosives. So Fortify, with its explosive damage resistance, this is going to keep you alive. You're maybe going to get ragdolled around a lot, but you're going to be, again, alive. If you don't like getting ragdolled a lot, we do have the Rock Solid here as well as another passive that would be good for that. But those are the passives that I've kind of been bouncing between, and I really haven't run into too many troubles as far as like survivability. Now let's deal with those Vox engines, and let's talk about our stratagems. I'm taking the recoilless rifle. Whenever there's new missions and shit is going to hit the fan, recoilless rifle is just S tier at taking out armored targets. I like the recoilless rifle here better than the Quasar Cannon, but if you want to use a Quasar Cannon, I totally understand. The recoilless rifle, this is going to be your way to take out structures or hulks, and then the Vox engines from a distance. Take note, I think it takes around 3 or 4 shots to take out a Vox engine with a recoilless rifle, which sounds like a lot, but don't worry, we're going to account for that. But just know this is going to be a great weapon to basically pepper them down or take out, again, those Vox engines. That's really what we're counting on with the recoilless rifle here. Now, what we're going to pair the recoilless rifle with is all the way from our new war bond, and that is the leveler. So you shoot 1 leveler at the Vox engine, and then you switch to your recoilless rifle, and it's dead. It's a very clean, very quick way to deal with those new enemies. If you're using something like the Quasar Cannon, you gotta wait for the charge up, then it has to cool down from the heat sink, and that's a lot of time in between them. The recoilless rifle, pairing it with the leveler, again, this is a really quick way to deal with them consistently at a safe distance. It's really no problem to take out a Vox engine if there's only one of them. You can do it with a light penetration weapon and a grenade. But on tier 10, there are multiple Vox engines dropping, and I want to make sure that our loadout here, we're doing our part as far as our team composition and helping handle those things, especially again, when they start dropping in all the time. Now, when it comes to your other 2 stratagem slots, I would stay away from the Eagle airstrikes. A lot of the missions have anti-air emplacements that you would have to take out, and depending on your team, that could be really quick in the mission, or that could be like the last thing they do in the mission. So I would stay away from the Eagle airstrikes. I would mainly focus on taking something like the orbital laser. This is excellent. Something like the Gatling barrage. This is also a really good one. So that could be your 3 and 4 slot. Also, because they're not necessarily like mega city maps, as in there's like not so many skyscrapers, but there are tall buildings. So taking something like a sentry, which is a direct drop down, that's going to be a good choice too. So something like the rocket sentry or the auto cannon sentry, you can't go wrong with that. So those are the stratagems that I've kind of been bouncing between, but really the bread and butter is taking the recoilless rifle and then the leveler. If you don't have the leveler, because it is the latest warbond, maybe take something like the EATs. I don't know how well the napalm expendable really works against them, but I think the EAT would do a good job as well. Now moving over to the overview section, and how does this loadout play? Well, I was actually very surprised on how well the Coyote did against the Cyborgs. I thought the Cyborgs are actually going to be a little bit tougher, but no, they're pretty easy to handle. Even 1 to 2 shots with the Senator, they take him out. I will say I was a little surprised, or it felt a little weird shooting humanoids in the head with like blood, because I've been so used to popping off robot heads or the squid heads where it goes all blue, but no, this is like spraying red blood, and that did take me aback for a second. But anyways, yes, your primary and your secondary weapon are perfect for handling the new Cyborgs, and they were already good at taking out the normal Devastators and Troopers. Now when they start to swarm, this is why I would take either the Pyrotech grenade or the gas grenade to basically slow their advance, or even throw either one of those grenades in the back line, because you will have the Devastators still sitting back there trying to shoot you with their guns. So you're gonna almost have to like fight on 2 fronts when they have drops and there's a bunch of them swarming you. And again, the great thing about bringing the Senator is you can use this to take out the Hulks. So right here in our equipment setup, we are handling 90% of the Automaton Cyborg Legion forces. But that does leave the Vox engine, which is the big baddie right now. They are a pain in the ass to kill, and they are tough. So that's why I really dedicated all of our stratagems to make sure we are getting rid of those things efficiently. So I would be conservative with my recoilless rifle shells, but there are going to be times where you're just going to need to keep firing one after the other. And remember, with the recoilless rifle, you can cancel the reload animation. So once you see that the icon shows that you've loaded in a shell, you can switch your weapon, you can dive, and that's going to cancel that animation even though your Helldiver doesn't look like he finished reloading. He did. You just got to keep your eye on the icon there. And as far as the leveler is concerned, I really would just be throwing these down anytime you get a chance, just to make sure you have a stockpile building up, because again, the leveler I am really just dedicating to using against the Vox engines. But sometimes there's so many Vox engines, there's so many Cyborgs and regular automatons, that's when you would call down the orbital laser and start throwing down the Gatling barrage. The Gatling barrage you can throw down a lot of times. The cooldown is relatively short, so that I would just be using all the time. And really, that's it for the overview. I've been having a lot of success with this loadout. I've been really tinkering with that last stratagem slot, but I think I've landed on the Gatling barrage. I think that has been the most consistent. I really want to bring up the new tank, but really that relies on the squad that you're dropping in with, and if they're even going to help you use the tank. Whenever I do see a tank on the battlefield, I am sure as heck running to it, and I'm helping either use the cannon on it, or I'm jumping in the little side panels to cover the flanks, because I love that team component of this game. But anyways, yes, that is the overview. That's how you're going to play this loadout. Alright y'all, that is my loadout for liberating Cyberstan. You guys let me know what you've been using and what you've been finding consistent success with. Usually geared towards, you know, tier 10. I understand if you don't want to run tier 10 because it is pretty hectic at the moment. But I will say the automatons, they are definitely the most complete faction that we have in the game. They have the 3 sub-factions now that all play pretty differently, and they're pretty fun to fight. I think I'm being won over by the bots. But anyways, guys, I gotta get out of here before my ship gets targeted. I will see you next time. Peace and take care.